In a world of economic depression, suicide, economic downturn, we are faced with so many objectives. You look through the media, Black Lives Matter, and currently the legalization of abortion. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Real Talk. Just wait. Just wait. So on my right, I'll start with Dr. Tertu. Welcome to the panel. A medical practitioner. You've been involved in many aspects. Welcome. Adriana, welcome to the panel as well. You did law as well, former prosecutor. You know a little bit of the terms of what's been involved. Pastor Felix, welcome to the panel. You're an international pastor. You've been to Tanzania, Europe, and you know a little bit of what's happening in the world. And our very own Sonia, a pharmacist, and you can also tell us a little bit of what's happening in the world around us. Pro-choice is the emphasis of the right of a woman to decide whether to terminate a pregnancy. And a pro-life emphasizes the right of an embryo or fetus to gestate to term and to be born. And other terms being used nowadays is reproductive justice, premeditated murder, partial term, pro-abortion, pro-birth, planned parenthood. Where do we stand? From your perspective, Adriana, what is abortion?
In terms of the Abortion and Sterilization Act, is the termination of a live fetus by a woman. So it's killing that fetus. That is what abortion is.
Is it right to say that when a woman has reached her full term, Dr. Tertu, is it right to say that a woman can decide at any term to terminate that pregnancy?
In Namibia, we regard a 24-weeker as a living person, or is that is capable of living out of the mother's womb in an incubator, for example. So no, a woman can't decide post 24 or after 24 weeks that they want to terminate.
Let me quickly come to Sonia. From your perspective, is it right to say that is there any moral or ethical perspective in killing a human being, a fetus?
Yes, there is a moral or ethical perspective.
Yeah.
Because as long as you have a living being inside the mother's womb, and you take away that life, then we are not being ethical, or you're not having our moral values being. That embryo or that fetus is not part of the woman's body.
Yeah.
The woman was never born with the embryo or the fetus. The woman there is just a carrier for that fetus.
Yeah.
So the woman can't say, I have the right for my body and do whatever I want to do with my body, because the embryo will need to come to a full term and give birth.
Yes.
So in what I'm trying to say is, it's not right, it's not ethical to take away someone's life. Just like that.
Yeah. Where does life start? Maybe that's the question.
That's a good question, because once that is defined, it clears all the confusion. From a Bible perspective, life starts very, very early, way back before we even think of it. I mean, our human definition of when life starts, if you have to put it in consideration with God's standards, it's far way beyond when we believe that life starts. Life starts in the mind of God. You know, life starts when God decides that this woman and this husband or this wife are going to conceive, and then this child is going to come into the womb. So that's why that scripture you quoted now says that before we're created in the image of God. God is a spirit, and therefore you are a spiritual being who then took a bodily form and came into your mother's body.
Life is important, and that's why specifically the Act also provides as to when life can be terminated. And it's not because whoever came up with the Act was reckless, negligent, or did not think about human health. But they thought, okay, life is important, but there are certain circumstances in which life would endanger the person carrying it. That's why they gave, or rather they put sections such as if it endangers the woman's life, if the child will be deformed, if there is any physical complications, then this child may be terminated. But life is so important that it's also included in the Constitution, where Article 6 provides for the right to life.
In a statement at the 1994 International Conference on Population and Development in Cairo, then the Minister of Health and Social Services, Nikki Ayambo, stated on the question of abortion, and this is, I quote, "The position of Namibia is that it can only be performed under strict medical supervision within the confines of the law, which state that the consent to abortion can only be given in cases of rape, incest, and when the life of the mother is in danger." And that's exactly what you've stated.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it so happens that somebody comes in, for example, in the case of incest, whereby it means that a family member has sexual intercourse with another family member, and the possibility of the child coming out with deformities is high. At that point in time, if they come to me and I don't agree, I can object and let somebody else do it, provided that they agree. So, but the point being that we do follow the law.
The law.
Yeah.
Now, from a mother's perspective, she will argue that, the pain that they have to go through to carry this child, especially when it's an unplanned child. She gets pregnant, it was not planned, the father runs off, she has to carry this child, the emotional pain, the trauma, raising up an unplanned child. That's mostly the argument from a pro-choices perspective. When it comes to the Bible, what do you believe should be the answer in this case?
I think that's a reason behind people wanting to go away with reckless behavior. Okay. Because we have to pay consequences for our actions. If I decide to go out on a cold day without a jersey, and I come back and I'm healthy, well, that's by the grace of God. But if I come back and I have a flu, I knew exactly what I did. I went out, it was raining or it was snowing, and I was underdressed. And that's exactly what happens if you go out and you have unprotected sex, or you behave recklessly, you sleep around with different people, unplanned for sexual intercourse, and you fall pregnant. You have to be able to prepare yourself to pay for the consequences.
Regardless if we legalize abortion or not, people are still doing it, but with less frequency. You understand? They are not doing it openly because it's not legal. People are hiding it. That's the reason why people are doing it in their houses, and they go to traditional healers, and only at the point when their life is at risk, they go to the hospital, and now the hospital has no other option but to assist the patient. Okay. But should we legalize abortion? Because some doctors are saying if we legalize abortion, that the rate of abortion will decrease and less babies will die. Because when they go to the hospitals, they will then be given contraception. But the question is, the main reason why people want abortion to be legalized is so that they can do all that they want.
A pro-choice will say that the church is not for them, but at the same time you'll find people in a church setting involved in sexual activities, and for that girl, of a 16-year-old girl having a child at 16-year-old, the whole future probably is in jeopardy because she has to give birth, drop out of school, and it affects mostly ladies. That's the argument. Yes, Pastor, maybe you can.
Yeah, that's a good argument. That's a reality that is happening. However, I will give you a very good example. Mahatma Gandhi said he will not be a Christian because he saw what Christians were doing. They came to colonize his country and enslave, and therefore he decided, I'm not going to be a Christian. Mahatma Gandhi was a very intelligent person, but unfortunately I will have to disagree and reprove Mahatma Gandhi on that particular decision. Why? Because the Bible does not say that we should judge God based on the Christians. The Bible says we should judge God based on the Bible. So Mahatma Gandhi was supposed to read the Sermon on the Mount, where he says, happy are the poor, happy are the meek, happy are the humble. So again, it's true, the Bible is, the church is not doing what it is supposed to do, but the Bible describes what the church is supposed to do. It's the same as me saying that Namibia is not a good country, but the constitution of Namibia allows me for the freedom that I want. So instead of me blaming Namibia, I should fight for my rights in the constitution. So though the church is not doing what it's doing, if you are a real Christian, then you should fight for what the church is supposed to be doing. You should educate the church. You should help the church, you know. I cannot blame a tree for one bad apple. If that is the case, then we should cut the whole tree.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick break and we'll be back. This is Real Talk. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Real Talk. Now, on this part, I have a question for Sonia. Do we have enough capacity in place if abortion is legalized? Health facilities, health practitioners, doctors, nurses. Do we have enough specialists in our country?
Well, I would say as soon as abortion is legalized, then we should be ready that the number of cases of women coming to the clinics and the hospitals wants to commit abortion, that number will increase. Dramatically.
Yes.
Because right now, as we speak, we know that our state's facilities, they are in shortage of many things. Number one, medication.
Yes.
Because if you want to commit abortion, there are two ways. You either get the medicines, the patient has to drink it, and then you can also do mechanically. So number two, we're also short of staff members, doctors, nurses, to assist. So if the number increases and the government does not also prepare the facilities, get more staff members, get more stock, get more medication, then in the end, the women who are going to the hospitals and clinics, wherever, will not get assistance.
Exactly.
So
what are the implications of committing an abortion from a medical perspective?
Okay, so they're both early and late. And as you say, that there is the medical, where we give medication, which helps either to prevent the growth of the fetus, and then there's that one which expels the content. So, and then with the mechanical, or rather surgical, we've got equipment whereby we open up the vagina and we go in there and we start removing the things one by one.
It's a painful experience.
It is a very painful experience which might require an anesthetist. So with the early complications, it's number one, if you need an anesthetist, you've got allergic reactions to the medication as well. You've got things like, you can have hemorrhage, like where you bleed a lot, because sometimes we leave things there. We're not perfect. We're doctors. We're human beings. We leave a clot there, and if there's a clot in there, you will bleed. And you've got a chance for infection, because any place where, if it's not sterile enough to go in there, you cause infection, which can later lead to a woman losing their womb if they come late to the hospital. So those are the early complications that you can have. There are late complications whereby, as you said, with the mechanical, or rather the surgical, we use we have to open up the cervix, which is now the opening into the uterus. So opening that up, you can traumatize the the cervix, and then later on you have cervical incompetence, where the woman can't carry a child. You have to come back to me, and then I have to perform a parentage again,
which is more expensive.
Yeah, not a parentage, but it is more expensive as well, because then it's more expensive because you come back, I have to kind of suture there, and in order for the woman to hold the baby to a certain extent. And not only that, but because you're scraping the walls of the uterus, you are you're causing now like a growth. It becomes thicker. It's like webbed up. So when a zygote goes and gets implanted in there, what happens is that you might not get it implanted there, or it might get planted somewhere else because it's not conducive enough for it, and then that's where you call where ectopic pregnancy comes in.
Yeah.
And if an ectopic pregnancy comes in, then there's also a high risk because it can come in ruptured and it kills a woman.
From my personal point of view, I don't think it will be legalized anytime soon because of the how can I say, it might go against the constitution or against the moral beliefs of 90% of the Namibian people. Because I say this because the constitution might say that we are a secular state, but we look at Namibia itself, religion governs Namibia. Although we might have different denominations, but the belief of these different kind of people. So we have to take into consideration, although I have a personal right, my right should not infringe on another person's right. So in taking that into consideration and the current law that stands as to the right to life and the fact that abortion is killing a fetus, there will be lots of debates before it can actually be considered in Parliament.
That's why I like our founding father. He was so strict in such measures. And
now this law that we are busy talking about is 1975, and people are saying that it's an old law. We should deal away with that old law. But I have two answers for that. Morally, it is wrong to steal. How old is the law against stealing? It's as old as the Bible. Why don't we deal away with that? And then secondly, in Namibia, there are major things that we should deal with. There is a very heated up debate about land. How old is that law that is making those people who took land unlawfully that has never been revised? You understand? So we should not say that because the law is old, it is invalid. No, it's not true. The law is old, but the law is morally right. In fact, that law should be revisited, and the definition of life should be revisited to be redefined as to when is life. Once that definition is redefined, we will never have a discussion of when does life start again, because at the moment there is leeway, and where there is leeway, I can come in with my pro-choice. And
let's just stick on that one. When is life determined? If we're to restructure the definition of life, then it means that we need to amend the constitution as well. And many of our laws are outdated. Maybe we should start there.
Because now, in the medical terms, I'm informed that life starts at conception, right?
Is that true, doctor?
Yes, it is.
I have to agree with that.
Highly.
But then, there is the Nasitiras fiction in law where it says, when can rights be attributed to a fetus, or rather to a child? They only consider that the rights can be attributed to someone if they are born alive. Then they have the right to sue, they have the right to, if something wrong happens to them, the mother can sue on behalf of the child, but because they are born alive. So if they are not born alive, they consider that they should not have rights. So that is also the argument of the pro-choice, that as long as this child is in my body, I should have the choice to do whatever I please.
Because the baby is not born yet.
That's what they say. The moment, because he doesn't have a right, I have a right.
Oh, so the baby doesn't have the right. The mother has the right.
Yes.
To do whatever she feels like.
The moment the baby is born, then they have their own right to decide, I want to be alive, I want to die, I want to do whatever. So that is their argument.
And that's the question of body versus baby.
Yes.
Who has the right? Does the mother have the right to terminate that baby? Or does the baby have a right in the womb? So me as a father, I can sue the mother because she aborted my baby while 2 months old, because it was my sperm cell and egg cell that came together. So not only does she have the right, but I also have the right because I donated something.
But you don't have the right yet because the babies are currently still in the womb. So my right against your right as a father. So what right do you have to a fetus? That would also be actually a good debate.
Yeah.
Does the father have a right to the fetus?
Yeah, to the fetus.
But can the woman have a fetus alone without the father?
They can't, but then in whose body is the
why
fetus?
is it that the right is more on the woman's side?
Because it's my body. I have a right to my body.
But then you also have to look at nature. Because nature has a way of, women are more caring. We are more caring. Like a child born would rather run to a mother as compared to run. That is just nature.
True.
And even when it comes to the child being in the womb, it's still nature. We can't avoid nature. So even if you come with your law stating that the child is only alive after the child is out of the womb, which isn't
According to science, yes.
Not according to science, but even physically, when a woman comes in, you're examining the woman, the child has his own heartbeat. The child is existing by himself. It's an organism on its own, has its own organs that are multiplying.
Just to cut you, from how many weeks is the life of the child determined?
From the day the egg and the sperm they fuse.
Yes.
That is already life.
Because
then it starts multiplying.
Can they make any decision?
They can't. An infant that you have, a newborn, can't make any decisions. Does that say that the child is not alive?
They are alive, but the government then can protect them.
But how is the government protecting them?
Because then there is the rights on children, the Children's Status Act.
When
they
the child
provide
is born.
them, yes, with
When the child is born.
Yes, which protects a child. You understand?
But then
that
the
is
same
then
thing
the problem.
comes in that people want. They don't. Okay, the reason behind people not wanting to carry children is because they feel like they don't want to carry. They don't want to be traumatized. Which you're still being traumatized with me entering or me giving you medication.
Yeah.
It's still trauma, both emotionally and physically. So you're carrying the child to term because we have people who leave their babies in the hospital, and the government takes over that.
Yeah.
So how is it not still a government's responsibility?
Yeah. So maybe the question should rather be. Do we have enough facilities as well when it comes to adopting babies and children? Yeah, that should be actually the discussion as well. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back. This is Real Talk. Welcome back to Real Talk. So, COVID-19 has brought some good fortunes and some bad fortunes. And this is a real life scenario that recently happened towards the month of March, April, May, somewhere there, whereby a family was affected in big ways, whereby the older son, believed 18 years or so, impregnated his two younger sisters, one 15 and one 12. Adriana, maybe help me understand. Should this boy be charged? Should these kids give birth to their, I don't know if you call it, their brothers' children? Where are we? In which world are we living now?
Yeah, that is incest, I think. And if it was rape, then really they should be charged because there is the legal capacity as to what age you can actually consent. Or rather, which age you can. Is it consent? The correct word, yes. Which age you can consent. And if they are underage, then it would be considered rape. So in this case, he was 18 years old.
18 years old, yeah.
It's actually rape. It's considered as rape. And in these circumstances, the pregnancy can actually be terminated.
So as we are coming to conclusion, I want to ask another question that says contraceptives and morning after are not enough and are not available countrywide. Girls in rural areas, they don't have access to that. Someone will say that no, the solution is contraceptives, but they don't have access to them.
Yeah, currently we are facing this shortage of contraceptions countrywide. We are very low on the stock of contraception, yes. But I always like to joke, when people come to me and say, we don't have contraceptives, we don't have condoms. I always tell them abstain. It's a joke. Yeah, you know, but if we look at this point of view, regardless of contraception and condoms or morning after pills, I want to make a point.
Yeah.
Sex is to make babies.
Yeah. That's it.
The point is,
that's it.
Sex is to make babies. Excluding cases such as rape, you know, those are
special cases.
Yes, special case. But in general, when you are having unprotected sex, you are going to expect to have a baby.
Yes.
So we must be held accountable
for our action. And there's consequences, good or bad. There's the law of sowing and reaping.
Exactly.
Whatever we sow, we reap. The law of gravity. If you go up, it must come down. So if you have sex, unprotected sex, you will have a baby. You know, that's just the way, the principle, there's a principle to everything. And many times we want to outwin the principle, to go beyond the principle.
Exactly.
And the principle has been set out by God. So the time that you want to outgrow the principle, you fall short of the consequences of God. Maybe Pastor, some last words from you on your side.
It's a nice discussion on abortion, pro-choice and pro-life. And like I said before, initially, it's not all black and white. God is, if you want to believe it, God is pro-choice because He gives you a free will. At the end of the day, we can say all we want to say. You will decide what you want to do with your life, whether you want to commit abortion or not. That is the right that you have, the right to choice. So God is pro-choice, He gives you choice. The only thing is that He directs you on what is the right choice, but you still have to make the choice.
Yes.
For those who unfortunately have made the wrong choice and aborted, I am a pastor.
Yeah.
So you will always get people who have a past that they are not happy about.
Yes.
So we have to counsel them and help them and tell them about grace. Now here is a beautiful thing about babies. For those, this is now for those who have committed abortion and they are probably sorrowful and whatever. Life is never terminated.
Yeah.
Medically, legally, culturally, we say that the life is finished. But in Bible terms, life never ends. So those babies that we are sending back to heaven, they are still there. And if you are a mother and you lost a baby through abortion or through miscarriage or any other means, those babies are still human beings, and if you are in Christ, you still meet them there. So life never ends, really.
Wow, amazing. Any last words?
I wanted to comment on the last point where you, if I'm probably misquoting, but to say that there is not enough contraceptives. So people have that excuse, or rather people are making up that excuse so that abortion can then be legalized. But if you think about it, post-abortion you have antibiotics that you have to give to this woman because then you have to prevent infection.
Yes.
You have to admit the lady, you have to give this lady anesthesia, which are expensive drugs, more expensive than sometimes even the contraceptives that are there, or even just a plain condom that is there. So I don't really think that the fact that contraceptives are not available should be an excuse for us to go and say that okay, we can go ahead with abortion.
So abortion is actually more expensive.
It's more expensive. It's gonna be
costly.
a more because you need you have your workload. You've got the workers as well, because now you need a doctor who's well trained in that specific department and who's also willing, number one.
Yes.
And you need an anesthetist who's also a doctor who's well trained, so that just in case something goes wrong, that person is there as well.
Yeah. So if I'm a doctor and it plays with my conscience, I can decide not to go ahead with the procedure. Yeah.
The way forward would be to educate people as to what to do, actually, to prevent even finding yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
So, sex education.
Yes.
Educating men as how to be men, women how to be women. Abstinence, yes, but if you do find yourself in such a situation, what you can do, what is available for you as a woman as well, if you find yourself in such a situation. So education is very important. Yeah, and I think that's something that is lacking. We do have a lot of organizations here and there, but we don't hear these things on the radio every Friday or every Wednesday.
Yeah, it's more about party happening on a Friday, and then we get ourselves in trouble.
Because if you look, it's very important what Edwin said. Because if you look in general, most people are just saying, I want abortion to be legalized, but
they don't know the implications.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
so the way forward is basically to develop that awareness. People should be aware of what they're getting into.
Exactly.
Before, I didn't know, and I wasn't expecting this to happen. So everybody should have a clear understanding and a clear view of what the implications, consequences, or benefits, so that in the end you make the right choice.
Yeah.
You understand?
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Talking about awareness, this is just my last thought. Many people don't really know what's happening on the abortion killing field. Namibia is fairly young. We are 30 years old as a democratic nation, and it's normal to probably want what others want, because we see other developed countries having those things, but it's not necessarily the fact that because
just to cut you, it's like a rich neighbor and a poor neighbor.
Yeah,
I want what a rich neighbor has.
Yes,
I want what SA has.
Exactly. Yeah, but you don't know what that rich person did to get there.
Yeah.
So my advice to fellow Namibians is that you are not poor. You are actually rich, morally speaking, because you don't have the blood of children in your hands legally yet. Now here is an alarming statistic. I was checking on this today at worldmeters.info. You can go check it for yourself. Per year, worldwide, there is 24 million babies murdered per year. And from 1960, which was Roe versus Wade, when America legalized those kind of things, there have been 2.5 billion babies aborted. That's like a quarter of our current population eliminated. That's how murderers we are. Yeah. So you can't expect those lives to just go silent and nothing happens. If the earthly courts here cannot fight for those lives, then the heavenly court will obviously fight for them.
Wow, fascinating. Fascinating. I think we should actually have another discussion on this. We should have a part 2 and a part 3 going on. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all for now. I will remind you of a Bible verse that says, death and life is in the power of the tongue. Therefore, choose life. This is Real Talk. See you next time.
Just wait.